Good morning, everyone. I'm just setting up the live. If you want to start talking to each other, a bit of chat, I'll be listening to you, but I won't be able to respond because I'm just fixing the Zoom integration with LinkedIn.
Very good. Thank you. Good morning, Laura Lee, and good morning, Shazad.
Thanks,
Good
Ahmad.
morning, Leona. Morning, Laura Lee. Hey, Ahmad, how are you?
Dinesh is on the call now. Very nice.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Liliana.
Morning, Liliana. How are you? How was your mini vacation?
Oh, it's good. It's good. Yeah. Very nice weather. Very relaxing. Oh, hi, Lorelli.
Hello. Hi, how are you? Nice to see you.
Yeah.
Hello.
Morning.
Nice to see you again as well, Leona. How has your business been since we last spoke?
It is still very busy. Still working with that very large client, and I have a number of smaller clients that have come on board as well. So it's very interesting.
Awesome. Good for that.
Yes. How are things for you?
Good. Yeah, can't complain. Can't complain. Doing a lot more with BMG with the TD mentoring program, and
yeah, it's a beautiful program.
yeah, it's awesome. Exciting. How about you, Liliana? What's going on in your world?
Oh, super busy as usual.
Yeah. Never a shortage, right? Or like never any lull time.
Yeah. And it's different because I work full time and I do side gigs and volunteering and whatnot. So it's always a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Any summer plans?
We just had a quick vacation. We went to the spa in where was that? Orangeville.
You vacationed in Orangeville?
Yeah, just like a spa in
spa. Okay. Oh, that's nice.
in
So
Caledon.
that's why Shazad said a mini vacation. Understood. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Awesome. So I know Hamad's setting things up, but are we each answering these questions, or is it a ask one of us or whoever jumps in?
I guess Hamad will lead it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm not sure if he's going to do a round table or just jump back and forth. We'll see.
I think we just go with the flow.
That's the way.
Hi, everyone. I'm able
Good
to
morning,
fix the LinkedIn integration, so that's good. We'll go live here as well as we'll go live on SOS talent page, so that's going to give us like a lot of visibility. I saw there are already about 21 people who have enrolled to join us here on Zoom as well. So I'm expecting some questions coming from the audience, which actually will enrich the discussion. As you said, my questions are just the triggers. So the way I am thinking it is we'll go around the table and we introduce each of us. Like I'll call your name and you introduce quickly what you do and what your expertise are. And then my first question would be why getting interview for newcomers is becoming challenging. So whoever wants to pick it up and explain. Then the way I keep it on LinkedIn is very informal. So it will be a discussion and we are kind of recording it already so that we have the content available for future use. Like, if we are, I mean, in fact, wherever you go, TD mentoring program it's going well. If you want to go to more such clients, we need to show them, okay, we have been doing it and this is what it is, right? So it's kind of that content is going to help us a lot. And of course, when it becomes engaging, hopefully we'll have some people joining us today that will actually add more value. So that's literally my little 2 cents to this conversation. But of course, let's keep it informal. Let's keep it, conversational.
Great.
So we have 2 more minutes.
So Hamad, I'm excited to have you join us on Tuesday.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Have you and Morley connected?
Yes, we have actually spoken and we have actually discussed how we're going to kind of gel into our conversations.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Separate but gelling. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. So he's going to do first, and then I'll just kind of follow the flow of that conversation, and we'll try to keep it conversational, engaging.
Perfect.
So people are kind of they don't get bored. Like
It's a good group. Yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah. So we have at least one person showing up in the waiting. And it's 10 a.m. So I'm going to invite her, and we'll go live as soon as I've done that. Sweta, would you be able to, or Shazad, would you be able to co-moderate it with me or become co-host? So that
Sure, no problem.
Okay.
What do you want me to do?
So I'll just because you see, when you see someone in the room,
Let them in. Okay.
let them in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm inviting it's Sanal Menon. So I'm just going live now I've pushed the button for live, and let's see. Thank you everyone for joining in. Very good morning from where I live in Oshawa, and I'm sure you all are doing well as well this Saturday morning, sunny and warm. I'm Hamas Siddiqui. I'll be your little host here. I'm just trying to fix again a little bit of our LinkedIn Live, which is looking a little strange. Yeah. At this point, okay, right. I think it should work now. It's always interesting to integrate Zoom with LinkedIn. So I'm just trying to figure it out. Right. It shows that we are live, but I can't see it. Okay.
Do you want someone else to check on LinkedIn?
No, let me do it because you won't be able to figure it out. But in the meantime, let's introduce each other, and I don't want to kind of keep people waiting. We'll still have few people joining in. There were about 20 people who showed interest, and this is our first live meetup, and we are going to do it on a very regular basis. So all these amazing HR professionals from Canada will come together, and we'll talk what's happening in the HR industry, what things are changing, and how we should really navigate our future strategy, not only as HR professionals but also as job seekers. And this to my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, this is one of its kind initiative by SOS Talent Management, which actually is disrupting the HR industry in Canada. So welcome all of our experts. We have Laurelie, we have Liliana, we have Leona, Shazad joining in, John and Sweta. So all these amazing people, I won't steal the thunder from you. So you are the experts. I'm going to learn a lot from you, and I'm sure all other participants are also going to learn a lot from you as to what is happening. I mean, future is everything that we need to figure out. I'll start with this this conversation with something that I read in one of McKinsey's report. So earlier this year, during the World Economic Forum meeting, McKinsey spoke to a lot of corporations like CEOs and the board members. And they came up in this report. So the first thing that really struck me is a statement or a finding. It says that by 2026, all these corporations jointly said, or something like a common denominator of this conversation was, by 2026, most of their revenue is coming from products and services that have not been invented as yet. And that was like a mind-blowing statement. And that actually shows that everything is going to change too rapidly from now onwards, be it 26, 28, 2030, whatever. And I was also reading a report by PMI, Project Management Institute, that said that by 2030, there's going to be a shortage of about 2.4 million project management professionals across the globe. What's going to happen? What is changing in our ecosystem? You know, is it going to help us create more opportunities? Do we have to reskill, upskill? What do we have to do? So that's kind of a starting point that I want to start this whole conversation with. But let's go around the table and introduce ourselves. I'll start with myself. My name is Amar Siddiqui. I work with SOS Talent Management. And I'm trying to help this great organization do some amazing things. And on my screen, I have Laurelie on the first, starting from left, and then Liliana, and then Leona, John, Sweta, Shazad, and Dinesh.
Perfect. I'll move over. Thanks so much, Hamad, and great introduction. It's my pleasure to be here this morning. So also such a pleasure to be on the same panel with Leona, Liliana, and Shweta, who I've had the pleasure of working with all of them together. So just to continue keeping it casual, a little bit about myself. I'm also part of the SOS team and BMG, which you'll hear a little bit about. Right now, we're working on an awesome talent management program for mentees, new Canadians, and mentors, a mentorship program. So we'll probably get into that a little bit today. But before we do that, I just want to, again, welcome everyone, give you a little bit about my background and why I'm here today. So I'm an HR professional. I went to school at Guelph University for sociology and international development. Then did my postgraduate at Humber College in human resources management, obtained my CHRL, and I have worked in the human resources industry for over 20 years, primarily in the manufacturing side. So I know we've all got different realms of expertise. I worked as a co-op student so a while ago in the airline industry, but that was little dated for me, and mostly in manufacturing. So as an HR leader, working in all areas and facets.
Great. Liliana.
Okay, I'll go next. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here and for having me. It's my pleasure to, be here and share, any insights or share what I know, and also, to learn from my fellow colleagues, HR professionals, and collaborate with BMG and SOS Talent. So my name is Liliana Nakamura. I'm an HR professional and project manager. I'm certified in Canada in both professions. And my background is in talent management consulting. I have I don't know, about 15 to 20 years of experience in consulting projects, HR strategies, global projects, and so on, mainly in Canada. I've been here 11 years, and prior to that, I was in Japan working in the consulting industry. Before that, I was in Argentina. That's where I'm from. So I've been in different places. I traveled a lot, and yeah, I really enjoy anything that is global and multicultural and multifaceted. And I'm currently working in the aerospace industry in HR as a talent and organizational development manager. So thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Leona.
Good morning, everybody. So nice to be together, and it will be a nice experience for everybody who's joining us to really hear a number of different perspectives from people who are all working towards the same goals, but taking different approaches and coming from different industry sectors. My background is HR, over 30 years, and I've had the unique experience of working in recruitment, not only on the corporate side, but also on the agency side, which is a little bit of a different perspective to be looking at. So I look to share that. I have been doing consulting work for the last 10 years, and I work with companies in a variety of different sectors. And some of them are internationally based, some of them are small startups, some of them have been around for quite a while. And it's very interesting to see how the needs of these different organizations pivot and turn. And, in terms of the work that Liliana does in particular with the talent management in smaller organizations is very different than what it is in larger organizations. So hopefully we can provide some insight for our attendees to help them navigate depending on what type of an organization they're going to be working with and what they can do to come across as the best candidate and be able to continue to bring value for themselves and for their organizations.
Awesome. John.
Yes, good morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with such an esteemed panel. So my name is John McGraw, and the way I explain what I do is I help newcomers, expats, and businesses connect across cultures to succeed in less time and pain. And I do that first through my own business, Hiyaku Coaching, and also as a member of SOS Talent, which I'm very excited to be a part of. In terms of my background, I was born and raised in Canada, but I lived and worked for several years in Japan. And it's a bit different because I started out as an ESL or English as second language teacher. And through that experience, I realized, yes, we can have the same language and we can share the same vocabulary and grammatical structures and so on, but there's a lot more to connecting across cultures than just having a similar language or the same language. And as a result of that, my experiences in Japan and also working with a number of cultures here in Canada, I went through the route of becoming an cross-cultural communications coach, an intercultural trainer. So I'm a certified business coach and intercultural trainer, and I've done a number of workshops through nonprofit organizations and also individually to help bridge those cultural gaps. Because again, even though we speak the same language, sometimes we communicate in very different ways. So I'm always very excited to be part of this initiative here and part of the panel today.
Yes, absolutely. I fully agree with you. We may speak the same language, but we communicate in a different way. That's my one of the takeaways for today's session. Sweta.
Thank you, Hamad. Hello, everyone. So excited to be a part of this panel today. I'm a part of SOS Talent Management as well as supporting BMG. I'm an HR professional. I am Dr. Shweta Sharma. I have completed Masters in Human Resources and Doctorate in Organizational Change Management. I'm born and raised in India and have started my careers, in banking and financial services and worked almost for a decade in this sector in HR. practically covered all aspects of HR, including talent acquisition, talent management, talent development, as well as spent a lot of time working on people and culture and helping organizations become a great place to work. I have worked across diverse sectors and different industries, and have a global experience across North Americas, Asia, and Europe. And I came to Canada in 2019 and literally started my career all over again, and have been very fortunate to work as a VP of HR at Equality Fund most recently. And I'm here to share all my experience and my journey with all of you, and so excited to be here.
Awesome. I, by the way, came back to Canada in 2019 as well. So, and what happened in 2020, we had COVID. So that was an exciting time for many. Shahzad.
Good morning, everyone. Truly a pleasure to be here. Well, I am part of the SOS team and also part of the BMG team. And Hamad, as you said, 2020 was a tough year. We moved here in 2020. April 1, 2020, no pun intended. It was April Fool's Day, but it was an interesting drive into Canada from the US. I'm born and brought up in the Middle East. I am a marketing and business development professional. I have worked with large organizations in the luxury industry and the telecom industry in the Middle East, in Europe and North America, Southeast Asia as well. And it's truly a pleasure to be here.
And last but the most important person who has actually established the foundation for this organization, both organizations actually, BMG as well as SOS Talent Management, Dinesh Sharma. Dinesh, over to you.
Thank you, Hamad. And it's such a pleasure to be in the company of all these wonderful people. You all heard Hamad say, Dinesh is my name. I've been in Canada for 21 years. However, I still consider myself to be a newcomer. Why do I say this? And the reason I say this is the challenges I saw 21 years ago when I came as a newcomer. Those challenges are still there. And I'm an HR professional, and I work with Liliana, Laurelie, Leona, and everybody, but I can tell you this, I have been on the both sides of the table, hiring people and looking for a job for myself too. And Leona would attest to it too, because Leona has been my mentor for, I think, 15 years time now. It's no fun looking for a job. And I have been there were not one, two, I think there was about 5 to 6 times in the last 21 years that I was actually looking for a job. And so what we are trying to do here is 2 things. Full transparency, because my thought process is transparency builds trust, and trust is key to long-term relationship. We are doing 3 things here. Before I came to this meeting, I was in another meeting where we are building BMG in India. So the process is in India, we will educate people that when you land in Canada, what are the opportunities, but more importantly, what are the challenges that you are going to face it to. Clear picture, not to scare you, but to educate you that these are the opportunities, but these are the challenges. The second part of it, we are currently doing it for the last couple of years' time, as you all heard it. We have a BMG Canada, which supports newcomers and international student community to reach their full potential by providing them various professional development programs. And now through SOS, this is our new initiative that we are doing it. We are not only going to be educating all the newcomers and international students how to become more employment ready, but also we are going to go into these businesses and we're going to educate these businesses and say, how do you tap into this newcomer talent? Because I keep hearing this. They're saying in Canada or in Ontario, there are 300,000 open jobs at the moment available. And then we say, I don't sure how many of you know this, 500,000 people are making Canada their home every year. So my question then becomes is, if 500,000 people are coming to Canada every year, why is this 300,000 jobs open? There's a gap. Employers are looking for X, newcomers are Y. We through BMG and SOS, or we are going to be filling that gap of X and Y. We're going to be working with the newcomers through BMG Canada. We're going to be working with the employers and saying that, hey, let's do this together. I won't take too much of the time, but I am very, very blessed, fortunate that we have all these wonderful people, those who wants to make a difference for the newcomer community, for the employers, to help them, support them. The title that was Untapped Pool of the Newcomer Talent. We just need to rewrite the way we do the hiring. We just need to educate the newcomers. The Laurelie does a session for us through BMG Canada, which says interviewing insights. And I will tell you this, full credibility to Laurelie, that in the last 2 years' time, that is one of our best sessions that we always have the maximum attendance. That tells me there is so much of a need in the community to support the community. But on the other hand, we're going to work with the employers also. That's a separate discussion. Over to you, Hamad. Thank you. I took too much of the time.
No, thank you very much, Dinesh. I think very important to set the tone right at the beginning of our conversation when we are doing all the introductions. This is a country which is built by immigrants, and it is thriving on immigrant talent. The challenge still is that how do we integrate that interesting immigrant talent that comes with tons of experience, knowledge, and skills into the Canadian job market. So I think that's an overarching theme for our discussions and ongoing discussions whenever we have the next session. So my first question to the panel is, and the way we will do it, we'll have some questions. I already have some questions for the panel based on what I've been hearing in the marketplace. And then we'll have you, all the participants, to, if you want to ask a question, please do so. We'll try to keep it as informal as possible. We'll try to finish it by 11 a.m. And it's going to be full of knowledge. Basically, this is what I am hoping, and I'm actually not hoping, I'm absolutely sure about it. So getting an interview call, a newcomer comes in, a month goes by applying for SIM card, finding some kind of accommodation stuff, trying to acclimatize yourself with roads, with the different side of getting into the car or getting into the bus or getting out of the bus kind of a thing. And you try to find your grocery stores and stuff. So you all do all these things. But the biggest worry you have is that you know, I am now jobless. Whatever I've been doing back home, I am now jobless. So I'm looking for a job. But getting your first job interview is often very, very challenging. And that's my first point. For every immigrant I've heard of, I'm sure all of us have heard this story, it takes months before you get first interview call. Why is it so challenging? And panel, you take it. This is a question to all of you, whoever wants to take it.
So sure, I can start.
Sure.
I think personally, it's the challenge level is there for a new immigrant as well as somebody that's already here. So I think for somebody that's new to Canada, it's going to be extra scary, and why it might be a bit more challenging because you don't have all the established connections, the networks that some people who already live here, people who live here, they've got or have already lived here and they're going to start their first job or get their first interview. They have a connection and a network that may already be established. So if it's one of my kids, for example, that's going to start work, I'm going to put out a call to all of my mom friends that I know, or the swim team, or wherever they already are established, where whoever I know, and my kid's going to do the same thing. So because we've been living here, we've been connecting and integrating into our day-to-day lives through sports activities or social events or whatever it is, we have an established network where we reside. So for new Canadians, that may not be the case. So you're not already able to tap into that as quickly as someone who is already integrated. So getting that first call, it's going to be dependent on coming to events like this, joining TD. Like it's really networking, meeting as many people as possible. So I think once you have that established, because recruiters will often, if they know somebody, they're going to be making sure that person gets at least a call, right? So the power of networking is huge.
Absolutely, and this is what I always preach. And I learned it like long time ago when I used to work with British government. One of the High Commissioner told me it doesn't matter how many people it matters, if one person knows you, that makes all the difference. And this is great. Anyone else wants to share a little thought? Yes, Liana?
Yes. I think to Laura Lee's point, obviously you have to get to know people, but I think it's also about becoming familiar with what would be the practice here, because the practice here in terms of the recruitment could be a little bit different than what it might be from where people are coming from. And so part of that is even just understanding, what to put on a resume and what not to put on a resume. So, we want to make sure that there isn't the level of sharing that maybe people are accustomed to in other countries. So here we don't put pictures on resumes. We don't put the date of birth. We don't put the marital status. None of that needs to be on there. And yet I often see that, and that already can be a little off-putting to some people. So it's good to know what to put on and what not to put on. I would say the other challenge that I have in terms of looking at resumes for individuals that are coming forward is I see company names, but I don't always have a context for, what kind of company is it? I know the big companies here. I don't necessarily have a lot of familiarity with big companies and other organizations. And so there, I think I'm wondering if on those resumes, it might be important to put a little line, a little scope line about, the size or the revenue of the organization, or, maybe a link to the website, because this kind of helps to give some context in terms of, bringing somebody into an organization that's maybe from a similar industry or has the same level of complexity to it. And then, of course, not only the networking is important, but also getting involved with recruiters. And, then, of course, using some of the social media search tools as well. And, but one thing that I find quite often is people are sometimes a little over-reliant on the social media platforms to find work and aren't always realizing it's a very crowded field. And this is where this piece around the networking and even just doing a little bit of personal research and going out exploring and thinking, well, what kind of companies could I go to could be helpful for somebody. And also to consider that some of the small to mid-sized companies have been in business for a number of years. They're very stable organizations, and there can be great experience to be had there. When you come into Canada, I think what a lot of people don't realize is that it is 0.2% of all companies on the private side that will have over 500 employees. So the notion of the number of large companies to join within Canada is very different, I think, than what it is in some other countries. And so already keeping that in mind and, taking a look at the size of the organization could open up options in terms of the networking.
Awesome. So the $1 million point that I picked up from here, there's something that I also tell to most of the people who come in and talk to me, is that, you're coming from, for instance, Kuwait. Shadat came from Kuwait, right? You work for a very large organization in Kuwait. How many Canadians go to Kuwait? So, they really don't know what that organization looks like. So it is up to you. How do you communicate that information to the recruiter or the hiring manager or the headhunter that you're talking to? And that actually is the piece of information which is usually missing, not only onto the resumes, because, a lot of us call this piece of document a CV. And when you are in Canada, you call it a resume. and also missing on your LinkedIn, because well, I do LinkedIn optimization, and when I review their LinkedIn, I mean, they so casually fill in the information that most of the time, if a recruiter clicks on the last job that the guy has done, that click does not take that recruiter anywhere because the link is broken. So it is our responsibility in this. It's still a crowded market to outshine, like, and you will outshine only if you present yourselves the way you should present yourself. And the second point, very important, is that you come here and you're looking to work for Bell Canada, for instance, or there's a lot of competition. But if you go for a smaller level organization, maybe in the same field, the chances of you getting in are much more easier because the competition is much less. So these are two amazing points, Leona. Now, I mean, you come in and you have skills and so I always say, okay, throughout your career, three things matter when you present yourself: your skill, experience, and knowledge. A combination of that actually takes you to the next level, which is maybe getting a networking call or coffee chat. How should a newcomer blend these three things in a way that becomes a nice smoothie for a recruiter to consider, or maybe an influencer to consider a coffee chat? And I would like to bring in Liana into this conversation.
Yeah. Well, I would say that coffee chats or informational interviews are pretty different. You don't do that in other countries. At least from what I knew before immigrating to Canada, that was not the custom, to get a job or to do that kind of activity for networking. You would go perhaps to an event and, that's called networking. But here in Canada, you have to, be open to have the one-on-one conversations, the coffee chats, and reaching out to people or being introduced to new people, in your profession. And that's why it's so important to be open and to also be open to learn new things and to have, a mentor who can guide you in all these, these activities, right? So it takes a while. I think, myself as an immigrant, it took me a while to get into that habit and to get into the mindset of, okay, like I have to go and, get to know people, not necessarily asking for a job or anything. I could say, I'm looking for opportunities, but the primary objective of the meeting is to get to know the person or get to know something about their company, their industry, or what's going on, right? So that kind of mindset takes some time. So I'd say, like to all newcomers here or people joining from other countries, don't push yourself too much and don't put too much pressure, but be open to learning and to adopting new new customs and new activities, because that will help you, in the long run. And it's always a process. And I think, Dinesh mentioned that trust is key to long-term relationships, right? So it's a process, and you have to, continue building your network and building, that kind of activity, in your time here. So it's, just trust the process and continue with that as part of your job search activities.
No, you're so right. And it takes time. It takes a lot of time for many. And here I would like to actually bring in Dr. Sweta because you came in 2019. And often people do not reinvent themselves. And this is what I have seen. You are director of communication for something and you want to become a director of communication here, but the organization may have a different title for the same position. And this is a big challenge for immigrants because, although we have come to a new country, but psychologically we're still living back home. Now, in this scenario, what should be an immigrant's move? You know, how do you adjust yourself to the new requirements or the market needs? If you could please shed light on that. And did you reinvent yourself as well?
Yes, thank you, Emma. That's a great question. And I'm so happy that you asked me to talk about it, because this is something that I want to share with the audience today. I think two things are really important. One is being open and being creative. And the second aspect is staying positive. I think these two things, being open and being positive, is going to really, really help any newcomer. And I'll talk about my own personal story. So I was working as a director in a global company when I was in India, and I left that job because I relocated to Canada. And then when I relocated to Canada, I could not really get a job at director level. So it helped me to be open to accept a role where I could apply my transferable skills. So I had done a lot of work in talent acquisition, and I picked up a role in talent acquisition, but I was very clear that I wanted to move into a talent development role. So I took up that talent acquisition role, which was still adding value to me. And after spending about 3 months, I was able to move and transition into a talent development lead role. And I think being open and staying positive really helped me there. And let me share that there are many times when you feel, oh, things are not moving, you're not getting interview calls, you're not really, you are in final interviews, but you're not receiving an offer. These things will happen, but you have to believe in yourself and keep staying positive. And I can assure you, it will happen. What I also did was, Liliana was talking about information interview. Information interviews are really important, but they're not to get interviews, they are to build relationship. And that really helped me, because people whom you interact and you're genuinely interested in them, and they are able to see that you're really vested in building a relationship, come back to you. May not be in 3 months, 6 months, may take you 3 years, 4 years, but they do come back when they see that you're genuinely interested. So my piece of advice would be to stay open, stay positive, and build relationship. I think that has really helped me. And within 3 years, I was able to move into a VP or head of HR role, managing a global company. And it will happen for any newcomer.
And so you can be very desperate. I mean, of course you are, because psychologically you're as I always say, you're jobless, and you've come from a very senior position. Most of us do. If you show your desperation, it's not going to work. You have to stay well composed, number one, and you have to be very strategic in your positioning. I remember, just building on this conversation, one of my clients who worked at Standard Chartered Bank in Dubai as the vice president for transactional banking. He came here and he was working with me even a year before lending, so he was kind of getting ready, can we market and all that. He did his lending, went back, now he's coming back with family. It took him a year to find a job. And the only reason was that he was not prepared to consider a different position. He only wanted to go in transactional banking, and banking industry in Canada is very small and still in a very nascent stage as compared to Dubai, for instance. So transactional banking positions are only handful. And if there is a handful positions, right, within the organization, usually people get promoted and get these jobs. So as soon as he changed his mind, okay, now it's been a year, you've been spending your money. You're a banker. Predominantly, every banker starts almost the same job. You're a banker. So take a step back, what you can do. And this is what I call reinventing yourself. And as soon as he did that, he actually got 2 like, offers, not interview calls, offers, and he picked Scotiabank. Now, this is how you transition yourself as a newcomer in this whole new situation or a new environment that you are in. And all that takes a lot of toll on your nerves, because you're kind of spending from your savings, and you're still thinking on your head that you're jobless. But I always say in all my sessions, you have taken the biggest risk in your life. Leaving your home country and coming to a brand new country that speaks different language. Okay, maybe all speak English, but our home language may be Gujarati or Punjabi or Hindi or Urdu, whatever. And there's a different culture. And when you're in different culture, you have to start learning to communicate. And there's no better gentleman than John McGraw to tell us, how do we communicate as newcomers?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think a lot of it depends. And when we talk about culture, it's not only specifically about national culture. This can also come into what the corporate or professional culture might be for a particular field. And I think there are a number of factors to consider. One of them is when you're approaching people online. And we've talked a lot about the informational interviews and finding ways to connect with people that way. And certainly having that mindset of trying to avoid being desperate is important. Some of it also comes down to understanding things like the level of formality. And I think one thing about Canada that I really like is that, generally speaking, hierarchies are fairly flat when it comes to connecting with other people. And sometimes it varies with organizations, but in general, it's flat. So in the sense of when you're approaching someone, we often use first names, regardless of how high a position a person might be in a corporation. It's what we're comfortable with. I think it's part of the idea that we want to appear as being friendly and approachable. And sometimes if you approach in a very formal manner, perhaps what you might be used to in your home country, the idea of addressing someone as sir or Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. And when you get into titles like that the trick is of course, then you get into concerns about gender identity and so on. And you could actually accidentally create offense by using the wrong particular honorific. So many times it's better to just approach someone using their first name or their full name. And again, part of that also would be in terms of when you're approaching someone, we like the idea of communicating in a what we term as being polite, but friendly and open manner, and also communicating in a fairly concise manner. So you may not necessarily need to give a lot of information in your introduction, but also give some detail about, what's the reason that you're approaching someone as well. And I think that when you do that, when you're looking for an informational interview, hi, my name's so-and-so, here's a little bit about my background, and I'd like to know a little bit more about your field, or whatever it is that you want to have the conversation with them. And I think that sense of equality and being friendly and approachable goes a long way in creating a good first impression when you're connecting someone, whether it's online through LinkedIn or when you're connecting with someone face to face, I would say. So in a nutshell, that's that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And this is a pretty common challenge for many, particularly the younger lot, people who are in the younger age, to come in and try to kind of adjust themselves to the local norms. And of course, communication takes us to next level. Communication builds conversations, and then of course I always say conversations build trust and credibility. And then you have the opportunity. So it's a journey. You have to start building that communication that converts into conversations. Awesome. Now we have a question also from Sanal, and we'll take the questions. I have a couple of questions kind of to trigger this discussion to the next level. And that the question that I have is, we talked about, and of course, Dinesh ji also spoken about the labor shortage, and we get this news about labor shortage, and and of course it could be different levels of shortage. You can looking at like a pretty much $15-16 job, or maybe looking at $200,000 job. It could, but there is labor shortage, and there are people who are still waiting to find their space in the job market. And interestingly, I have Deepak Nathani joining in from Gulf as well. And Deepak has an amazing story. He was interviewed 7 times by one organization. And he is an EV engineer, so electric vehicle engineers, a very specific, interesting niche that he has. And he has, I think, about 12, 15 years of experience in India in the same industry. Now, think about India, the size of that country, and size of Canada being at like a tiny country in terms of population. And we are just getting into EVs. India is already far ahead in the game. And he was interviewed 7 times. So he spoke to me. I think it was the 6th time when he went for his interview. They said, no, Amar, I mean, they've been interviewing me. This is the 6th time they interviewed me. And they now want to call me for another interview. And I said, Deepak, the thing is that if they have interviewed you twice, they're already interested in hiring you. It's something that is stopping them making the decision. By 6th interview, you're friends with them. Just go in the next interview and say, what is stopping you hire me? If there is a confusion, I'll be able to solve it. So that's how you build it up. But there are certain strange things that happen in interviews when you're working for small and medium companies where the decision making is pretty much centralized. But my question here is that where are these labor shortages? Like you have been in the industry and you are working in the industry for so many years. At this point in time, just thinking what I said in the beginning is there is going to be a lot of interesting changes happening in the job market. Where do you see these spots where immigrants should really look at? I mean, we've spoken about small and medium enterprises, but what industrial sectors? If Leona could shed light on that, and of course, if Liliana or Laurel, if you want to get in.
Absolutely. As mentioned, I'm working with clients in a variety of different industries, and what I'm finding is that it seems to be across the board that people are looking, particularly in support roles, in a variety of different things. So I'm hearing from organizations that are having trouble finding electricians. They're having trouble finding people to be working in warehouse positions. They're having trouble finding people to come into the office to do customer outreach type roles. For management roles as well, it's the same. There are many candidates that are out there, but to find an individual who has the level of experience that a company is looking for, but also who can come in and who can kind of understand, we talk about the Canadian culture, but there's also the culture of the company. And how does the company relate to their clients? How does the company relate to the teams amongst themselves? As an HR person going into an organization, one of the things that I look for is how do people talk to one another in that office? What does it look like? Are people scurrying? Are people stopping to chat? Is it collaborative? How is it? And this is, I think, one of the added levels of difficulty that we haven't even touched upon. It's one thing to sort of get the interview, but then from there, how are you going to go through that interview? And what can you do to sort of prepare yourself to sort of get an idea of, how does this company actually like to connect with its own clients and with one another? So you can come in and you can fill the bill and, say, yes, you know what, I'm going to be, I have the talent, I have the skills, I have the knowledge, the experience, but I also have the flexibility, and this comes to your point about reinventing yourself. I have the flexibility to come in and adapt to this environment. And I think this is something that doesn't always come through on interviews, but I think it's something for people to think about. when an individual is going in for an interview, they know the organizations that they've worked with. But, you know, many people who are interviewing you are not necessarily trained interviewers, particularly in small to mid-sized companies. So in that case, it's good for you to share with them information that will help them to make the decision. And part of that might be to say, well, when I worked in this organization, this is what it was. This is kind of how they ran. And, you know, then I went into this organization and, you know, they were in a different stage. They had different client base. So you can, in sharing your story about your work history, talk about sort of compare and contrast how those different environments were different, because you want to give people the idea that, okay, this person is flexible. If they could figure out those other environments, they could figure this out too. And, you know, they're not married to just doing it in a particular way. They're not really just caught in only being able to function in one particular way.
Yes, so no, the two things that I got from this this thing, you know, two like golden nuggets of course the conversation itself is really enriching, is that your adaptability and flexibility. Now, from the sounds of it, it looks like the same thing. Adaptability and flexibility sound the same thing, but actually these are two different things. Adaptability is when you're adopting a new culture, and flexibility is how much will you adopt to this new culture. So keeping that in mind is a great thing. And in an interview, I mean, the fact is, of course, there may not be so many trained like interviewers, recruiters, but they are human beings as well, right? You know, so instead of being too rigid in your conversation, try to figure out what they are looking for rather than start pushing your information to them. Try to understand what they are looking for. I mean, I say you become a salesperson, right? You know, try to understand what your customer needs and tailor your answers based on that need. You're not doing anything wrong. You're just helping that person understand your capabilities. So this is the basic. Lolly or Liliana, if you want to add something to this, or Sweta. Yes, sir.
Hamad, I do want to add something here. I think Leona said it and you also said it. I think flexibility is the most important skill these days. And you talked about adaptability as well. I do want to share a personal story. So when, you know, I just shared that I got a job in talent acquisition, I really wanted to move into talent management and got this job from a global company, which was exciting. And it was a role to lead the talent development, which I really, really am passionate about. But when I was interviewed for this role, I was told that, all right, 4 days your office is in Mississauga, and 1 day you have to travel to St. Thomas. Now, I mean, most of you or many of you may not know where St. Thomas is at one end further down London, which is about approximately 1 hour, 45 minutes up to 2 hours away from Mississauga. And I was living in Brampton. And I did not know how to drive at that point in time, even though I had driven for 20 years in India. Canadian driving is very different, and I had still not received my licenses. Now, at that juncture, I could have either said, no, I can't do it, or something which I chose. I say, okay, I'll take it, and we'll figure out how to commute later. So you don't have to solve for everything. And you won't believe that the day I joined, the next week pandemic hit, and I was asked to do everything virtually and everything solved. And in hindsight, when I reflect back, I was like, what a mess if I would have rejected that role, thinking about how do I travel. So I think a lot of it, many times, you don't have to solve for everything. Things, you know, make a path for yourself in their own way. You just have to believe and follow your gut.
So, you know, you took the risk. Now, if we don't want to take risk, things will not happen. And just to, I think Leona wanted to say something, but believe me, when I was coming back to Canada, I originally migrated in the year 2000, but I never lived here for long. Like, you know, I was, and I'm kind of lucky because before even applying for immigration, submitting my application, I had already been to Canada twice, in 92 and then in 94. So I actually knew some of the things in Canada. A lot of us, like immigrants who've come here, they're landing here for the first time, right? You know, everything changes for them. So the risk level is very high. And if you don't want to be, if you don't want to take your next level risk, then you suffer. As simple as that. So your next level risk is where that takes you into the new journey. When I was coming back, I thought, okay, Ahmad, enough of corporate life. I don't want to kind of put myself into milling machine again. I want to start something of my own, which was even more challenging than starting looking for a job, because I never was a business person, right? But your skills and your experience, if you gel these two things in, and of course knowledge, you build it up. So I built it up. And my starting date was also 1st of April, the date when Shahzad landed here, 2020, when I started my journey. Because before that, I was already doing a full-time job with US Chamber of Commerce until 31st of March. My contract ended. Next day, I turned on my computer. I said, I'm a LinkedIn coach, and I'm going to help people into their journey, career journeys. So what I did, whatever I was doing for the past 36 years pro bono, I converted that into my business. Very simple. So when I always talk about reinvention. So as newcomers, if you've taken that risk, take another risk, reinvent yourselves, and take that challenges, and things will start happening. So what an amazing story. Leona, you want to say something?
No, I didn't have anything to add in, but it's just interesting that, you know, we all seem to be taking this from a variety of different angles, but we're all kind of saying the same thing. You know, you have to come here and kind of, you know, take things as they are and find your way to make it happen.
Yeah.
And, you know, even John's comments earlier about the conversational style and that we have less formality here, that is so important as well. You know, so it's such a steep learning curve, and you know, truly, it's such a big risk to come to a new country and start over again. I think I would be a chicken. I don't see myself going anywhere else. I'm going to stay here. So, you know, I have a lot of, you know, it takes a lot of courage to come here, and you know, it takes a lot of courage to start over. But the thing is, you know, to know that there are also a lot of employers out there who are not hung up on Canadian history, who don't care about that, who really take a look at the, you know, the skills, the transferable skills that came up earlier as well, and who are not really interested in where somebody worked out really before. They're just more interested in, you know, can they come in, can they do the job? And, you know, can they get along with the team, and can they get along with the clients? And so, you know, as much as there are many challenges that are there, sometimes, you know, luck will follow you. There will be some lucky breaks, you know, or it's just a matter of the right place at the right time, or, you know, you just happen to have a conversation with, you know, somebody at the playground, and they just happen to know somebody who needs you. It's a very interesting journey, and I find that in speaking with people, you know, the journey in terms of how they got to where they were is different for everybody, which means you really, and as you were saying, Hamad, this thing around the creativity and the reinventing yourself, you know, if you're willing to kind of let go and just kind of make it happen, sometimes that can help. You know, we are taught that careers are a very linear, step-by-step process, and then we start to get into the working world and we realize, not always.
Yeah,
Sometimes yes, often no.
absolutely. So we are only 3 minutes away from the end time was 11 a.m. But if there are any specific questions, we may, if panel wants to stay on a little bit, like maybe another 5-6 minutes, we actually have one question which I think already addressed by someone. Liliana, you addressed this question about the HR. thing. Again, you start from somewhere, and I'm a big fan of volunteering. So, get some volunteering done. So many organizations out there who are willing to, take you as volunteer, and that's a good starting point. I mean, I still volunteer. I know Shazad volunteers. We all volunteer with organizations. Sami Uddin, Saab, you said, thank you, first of all, for joining in. Connections to recruiters. Yeah, I mean, there are recruiters sitting in this room. We have got Leona, we have got Lorelei, an expert, Liliana. And it's not always about the recruiter, believe me. It's not always about the recruiter. It could be Shazad who knows someone and he could refer you. So it's all about your network, how effective your network is. And here I always say, the term GIGO that I learned in 1984 when I was kind of learning computer a long time ago. GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. So if in our network there's a lot of garbage, then the result will be garbage as well, which means the result will not be desirable. So, keep your network neat and clean and golden network. Reinvent yourself at 50. How do you I reinvented myself at 55. I'll be 59 in December. So I don't think age does not matter. I mean, it actually doesn't matter. So if you want to reinvent yourself, Shazad has been reinventing himself. We all do throughout our lives. And if we don't, then we get stale, as simple as that. So I'm trying to kind of address these questions quickly. Leona says, focus on contribution that you can make. A vacancy means there is an opportunity, of course, and there are tons of opportunities. So if there are any questions from the audience, you can still raise your hands and turn on your microphone and ask. We may just continue this for another 5 minutes. And I have one last question for the panelists. So anyone who wants to take it at that point. Anyone at this point? No? Okay. Yeah. Yes, Karuna. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. First of all, I want to say thank you to all of you. It was so insightful and, so many good learning experience to get into your life, actually. So I have two questions, basically. So the first question is what about the very new international students? When they come, they always have that issue. I don't have an experience, how the recruiters, they are going to recruit me because I don't have an experience. So being a career advisor, I always advise them, you do have your transferable skills, little bit of volunteer experience, or when you were helping maybe your classmates, your siblings, but still they don't understand. They are always stressed out. And to be very honest, they are not getting the job. So what will you recommend as a recruiters, what else they can add up actually?
Second question, quickly. And then
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So should I ask both the questions together?
please.
Okay. So second question is basically for me. So I do have lots of experiences. Everyone is sitting here. So, but to get to this journey, it took me a while, So I want to get into a universities or higher level profile. So what will you suggest? Because it always says whenever I talk to somebody, it's very difficult to get into universities. You need a reference, or they are always hiring internally. So what is the criteria for that? Actually, I really want to know about that. So these are my two questions.
All right, Lorelei.
Okay, I'll take your first question, which has already been answered just with respect to international students. So there's the three main things, right? Hamad already referenced one of them. It's volunteering, right? So we all volunteer. That's how you expand. That's how you, right? So you're gonna volunteer. You're going to use your student experience, whether it's project management, etc. If you don't have any work experience at all, whether it's from your home country or here, you're going to highlight those projects. If it's from your home country, then that's still experience. It doesn't matter if it's Canadian or if it's international. And your third is just network, right? So the more you network, and Sweta said it earlier, it's not about just networking, it's building relationships, right? So I want to re-emphasize that. So networking isn't like, oh, let's connect on LinkedIn and then bye. You actually have to build relationships. So the more you build relationships, the better you are. And again, there's so many programs out there, right? So for the new international students, we have the TD mentorship program that's going on right now. We've got another cohort happening in October. So anybody that's interested, we're going to help you, connect you, and get you better prepared. So lots of avenues. So I'll take the first question. The
Okay,
university.
perfect. Thank you.
How do
Thank
you
you,
help
Laurel.
Anyone wants to take the second question? It's all about networking again. So you get to know the people in that industry and start talking to them. I would suggest Shahzad also teaches at Conestoga.
Mhm.
So instead of looking for a job, just go as a visiting faculty. Just to choose something. Just enter the organization, and things will start changing. So great panel, amazing discussion. We're already a little over our set time. The biggest challenge for all of us is to start understanding the job market dynamics and then communicate our skills, knowledge, experience to whoever we are speaking with, be a recruiter, headhunter, or just over a coffee chat. If we could figure these two things out, things will become much more easier for us. Thank you, all the panelists, all those who have attended. We were unable to go live yes, Leona, I'll just come to you. We were unable to go live, but luckily I have recorded the session. So we have this recording available, and we're going to share that recording onto our social media. Yes, Leona.
Sorry, I was just going to say thank you and goodbye.
All right. Okay.
Just one final comment, Hamad, if you allow me to.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. First of all, I want to thank you, Hamad, for facilitating this session. I want to thank you, Laurelie, Leona, Liliana, and Shweta for this insightful session. Through our other organization, which is called Brilliant Minds Group, we have this vision that we say this to everybody, and we will continue saying this to everybody. It says, committed to your growth, we are better together. What I mean by that is we, whether through BMG or whether through SOS, we are committed to make sure that you reach your full potential. And the intent of bringing today's panel was, I don't know whether you guys saw it or not, but the panel has two unique combinations. We have Leona and Laurelie, who are the Canadian HR leaders, and we have Liliana and Shweta, who are now Canadian, but as an immigrant coming into Canada and becoming. So you can't say, I mean, again, I say this very respectfully, hey, these are the Canadian HR leaders, they are talking about this too. No, you've got two immigrant HR leaders. If they can do it, if I can do it, if Hamad can do it, we all can do it. But 4 things, I will still close this off. 4 key things that you need to be successful in Canada. 1, network, network, network. 2, volunteer, volunteer, volunteer. I posted on LinkedIn yesterday, our Mani Bandari was our programs coordinator, her story, how we hired her as BMG's program coordinator, what she did for, so that's the second. Third is find a mentor for yourself. I am in, and I say this very openly, I say this I brag this. Shweta knows this. I tell Shweta, hey, Shweta, I'm going to brag this one more time. I have been in Canada for 21 years time. Knock on wood, God has been very kind to me. I'm very successful. However, even now, I still have 5 mentors. Not 1, not 2, 5 mentors that I have it. And I have a monthly call with them every month. This is all about personal development. So I'm investing 5 hours every month in me personally. And last but not the least, whenever you go to any event, please be courteous and switch on your cameras. How do I know if you meet somebody, if I meet some you in a shopping mall or somewhere and you say, hey, I'm Sanal or I'm Rosie. I don't know who Rosie is. I haven't seen you. Your camera was off. So if you tell me, you tell Laura, you tell Leona, I attended your session, I will remember Deepak because his camera is on. I'll remember Karuna because now I can give a face to the name. But if your cameras are not on, it's like we're talking to a wall. You agree, Ahmad? You agree, John?
Be out there and be seen.
Be out. Visibility is the key. I am, and I say this to everybody, be out, be visible. When I started my HR career, I used to go to all the HR associations event to a point that people in the industry said to me, you don't have anything else to do, you come to all the HR events? Why? What was I doing? I was creating a visibility for myself. That's how I got Leona as my mentor. I got Liliana as my friend. I got Shweta there. Become visible. Sorry, I can keep talking about this for the entire day.
No,
But
if I,
that's
Dinesh,
my
if I
two
may add, Dinesh was a guest speaker when I was a newcomer doing a program 11 years ago. And it was very inspiring. Okay, so I really remember him, and I followed him on LinkedIn, and I was looking at what he was doing. And when he reached out again a few years ago, I mentioned that you were so kind and inspiring, and you made an impact. So you never know when you're out there and volunteering and helping people. You never know who will be impacted positively by what you're doing. So here's a story, long-term relationship.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Lina. And we will do this session every month because this is our way of giving back to the community. We will figure out the details. I mean, between the SOS team, we will, when are we doing it? But this is going to be a monthly event for SOS. And we will then also bring in, these are wonderful panelists, but we are going to bring in the other employers also, telling them, look, there are 25 talented people that are available here. And you're looking for a talent, they're right here. Network.
Absolutely.
I'm going to close this off here. Back to you, Ahmad.
So the topmost skill for anyone across the globe for your success is communication. LinkedIn did a survey and they spoke to zillions of employers. First, or the topmost skill that came up in this data is communication skills. You can be a master of everything, but if you cannot communicate, you won't grow. So thank you very much for joining us on this Saturday morning, and it has been a pleasure. Some of you wanted to speak to me or chat with me. I've shared my LinkedIn profile, so you can connect with me if you want to have some conversation. But speak to everyone, follow everyone. These people are just amazing. Dinesh writes regularly, John writes regularly and does these amazing sessions. So is Shehzad. And let's keep working towards our success. And next session is going to be in a month's time. Thank you very much. So if speakers have time to stay for another couple of minutes, that would be great. And you all can go back, enjoy, have a little walk outside. It's pretty warm, nice weather. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Perfect.
Okay, this is only the team now. We're good.
Yes. Perfect. So,
All right.
Do you want to stop recording, or this is part of?
Stop recording.
I'm recording. I'm stopping. I'm stopping. Sorry.